everybody, and welcome to Superhuman Customs. I'm Stephen Human. If you've never watched the channel before, I just customize action figures, generally McFarlane DC figures, and I turn them into all kinds of different characters. Sometimes they're simple repaints, other times they are completely becoming something else, and that is what we have today. I was able to get this Catwoman unmasked from the Batman for free, shockingly enough. I went to the local GameStop, and they had their buy one get one free on clearance, and I found these D&D figures that I was like, oh, this is awesome. They were super cheap, and she was super cheap, and I got her for free. So as soon as I saw her, I had been working on the Simon Baz figure, and I thought, let's turn her into a Jessica Cruz. Now we're going to use this head right here. It's from a wrestling figure, the body which we used for Hawk Girl for the Justice Lords. So we're going to use this head as Jessica Cruz and this body, and it is going to look perfect. It even has the V in here, just like she has on her suit. This is going to look like it was made to be Jessica Cruz, and I'm very excited, so let's jump right in. So first thing, we just need to remove her head, and this is what we will be adding on right here. Now I'm gonna file this down a little bit using my sander, just to make it so that the head will fit a little bit lower down on the neck, but this is what we got. And first things first, we're going to have to form her symbol and paint her hair. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we go. I've got a little bit of Milliput, and I'm going to put it here on her chest with some glue. And I'm going to take this little cup, and I'm going to smash it down. And with that in place, I'm going to use that as the base, and I'm going to pull out my X-Acto knife, which I should have had ready, but I honestly didn't think about it. So I'm going to pull out my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut around the edges. I'm going to hold that in place, cut around the edges, and make it so that this is a perfect circle. And so now we have that on there, and so she kind of has a very simple Green Lantern symbol. So I'm going to just kind of form it in just by cutting it in. The problem here is that I really need to be paying attention as I do this. So you're not going to see me do it because I need to be looking right at it, really close. And I've made too many mistakes while filming for you guys and not concentrating when I should. So you're not going to get to see this part. You'll see it when it's done because it's going to take me a minute. So actually all I ended up doing was taking the cup and see the little like straw here, making the hole, and then kind of just moving the Milliput around to make sort of the symbol. It's not perfect. It was never really going to be perfect at this scale, at this size. But painted, it's going to look pretty cool. And I can adjust it still a little bit, like with the hole. I can move it a little bit to one side if I need to balance it out. But yeah, that turned out much easier than I expected just by sticking the X-Acto knife in here and moving it around. And one thing that I learned on the Dr. Manhattan and the Simon Baz is that if I tap the Milliput with my finger, it very quickly, it gets soft. It kind of warms up and it smooths out really beautifully. Gets nice and smooth. So like with the Robin, and yeah, not the Simon Baz, with the Red Robin, I was able to get the head super smooth. I didn't even need to sand it afterwards. So this is a great technique to use. And as you can see, it's now quite smooth and won't need any sanding. Love it. That Milliput is going to take 5 or 6 hours to dry. So this is the perfect time to blacken in her hair. Now she does have black hair, but it might be nice to add maybe some brown highlights. We'll see once she's all finished as to what we think is going to look the best. But obviously, either way, you want to start with the black and go dark first, and then go light over the top of it if you need to. And so that's what we're going to do. I think she's going to look perfect. Very excited for this figure. The only problem I think I'm going to have is that I think the symbol is slightly off center. And there's not much I can do about that right now because it's glued in place. And so I might just have to deal with it. I'm not sure. It's always frustrating when you see something like that. You get it on and you're ready to go and you're like, oh, it's slightly off center. It's like a millimeter off. And I work so much in Photoshop, I've gotten so used to being able to fix everything. And on these, obviously, there's no go back button. There's no undo. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. She's looking pretty good with black hair. One thing I want to do, though, to change this up is I want to give her a little bit more hair. So I'm going to go with our go-to method with the fabric paint. And I'm just going to add some hair coming down like this, just to make it so that she just has a little bit more. So it comes down in a curl. Maybe add a little bit more on this side as well. And obviously this will all dry in plastic and look pretty good. All right, I like that. That looks better. So with the new hair, she's looking pretty good. What we're going to do now is we're just going to blacken around all this stuff. So we're going to make all this match. So the milliput is now dry. Real quick, we'll go through. I shouldn't want her to have a belt, so I added a little bit down there. And then we'll just go around here. I'm going to leave this unpainted because I want it to have a slightly different color, and if it doesn't have the black as the base, should be good. But yeah, this is moving along nicely. Now that everything's dry, we're just going to add a layer of the green here. We're going to bring it down all the way to the little V, because like I said, that is, like this mold in this Catwoman is perfect when it comes to doing this. And if you want, you can kind of, because she has a black line that goes right down the middle of her chest and torso. And so you can kind of keep it, because it's actually got like a zipper here on the Catwoman. So if you want to not have to repaint that, then you can just go through like this and keep that. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is a really simple part. We're just going to go up through here, get all the green, and then we will go from there. Now, much like Hal Jordan, Jessica Cruz has white boots and white gloves. Well, I guess that Hal Jordan has green boots and white gloves. Well, in any case, she has white boots and white gloves, which in my opinion gives her a really great look. It just makes her stand out a little bit more against the other Green Lanterns, and it's a good look altogether. So I'm just going to go through here, get the gloves, get the boots all painted, and then just let everything dry. I mean, this is a pretty easy figure when it comes down to it. Not terribly special, just painting, but it definitely gives you somebody to add to your shelf that may or may not ever get produced by McFarlane. You never know. Maybe she'll get announced next week. Maybe we'll never get one. Either way, you'll have one. Now what I'm going to do with the symbol here is I'm first just going to paint it all white, because when we add the metallic green to it, I actually want it to have a slightly different look over the white than over the rest of the green. Because, you know, oftentimes in different works of art, these characters will have, you know, their symbols will be glowing or something, and obviously I can add fabric paint to it if I want to at the end, but I think that I'm going to try it this way and just see what we can get and see if when I add that green, if it just makes it pop differently. I think it will. And now, like we've done with all the other Green Lanterns, we're going to do a light coat over this green with the metallic. We don't want to add too much because we want it to become metallic, but we don't want it to take on the full color of this other green so that it will match everything else. And all the other Green Lanterns have turned out pretty great as we've done this. So I'm very happy with this technique. And I think that, oh, I'm getting texts. And I think that Jessica Cruz will be no different. And if you get a little bit on the black, don't worry, because we're going to go over the black and just make sure that all these lines end up nice and crisp. And so it's better to get a little bit of slop right now as you're going through and just kind of dusting than it is, with the black. So just know that if you do have any slop, you can take care of it pretty easily here in a few minutes. What I'm going to do right now for the ring is I'm going to get some paint on this little paintbrush, and I'm just going to go and I'm going to dab it right here. And that's it. Now I could take some fabric paint and do a dollop right there as well, but in truth, this is going to be just fine having that there, at least for me. You can do it any way that you want to do it to give her ring. You can make it a little bit more three-dimensional if you want. For me, this is perfectly fine. I'm not going to stress too much about that. And now that the ring is done, we're going to get the symbol. And I'm going to just, again, paint across like this. And I'm going to fill in all up here and the symbol here. And then hopefully, I'm just going to move it around. So I start with just this little bit because I want it to look different from the rest of the green. I'm not sure if that's going to work, but normally when I've used this metallic on different colors, it tends to give me slightly different shades, and that's what I'm after. If not, and it doesn't work, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this in fabric paint, in glow-in-the-dark fabric paint. And that will do what I want it to do. But there we go. That's looking pretty good. If we need to do something a little bit different with it, we can. And obviously with Jessica Cruz, she has a little Green Lantern symbol on her face. So I'm going to try and get just a little bit of paint on the brush here. And I'm going to go straight over with the metallic. Because again, I want this to look different. Well, maybe I took off all the paint because it's not really going. There we go. Because it's a very light symbol on her face. And so I don't want it to be too much. And so I'm just going to go across here and form it around her eyes. Nice and simple. So that she's got it. And if I need to add some more, then I can. But I want this to be a little bit more subtle. I want to see that it's there, but it's in the comics it's shown as more of a glow. And so I would like to keep that aesthetic. That it's not like this big pronounced thing, but that it's something on her face that glows and marks her as a Green Lantern. And I'm debating on whether or not to paint her eye white, because in some versions this eye is white. Like the pupil, like she has no pupil. But I'm not sure how I feel about that, so I think I might just keep her this way. And then we'll see. So all right, that's looking pretty good. Her symbol actually has a bit of black around it to help it stand out, so I'm just going to do that real quick. And while I got the black out, I'll probably just crisp up some of the stuff in here. But this will help her symbol to stand out a little bit more like it does in the comics. Just a nice light line is all. Just enough to make it known that it's there. I've decided to do what I did with Simon Baz and do just an edge here of the fabric paint. On him it ended up looking so good because it gave it kind of a raised edge. And so I'm just going to do the same thing with Jessica. It was nice and subtle for the most part, but that'll just allow me to just add a little bit more detail and texture here. And it will make it feel like it's glowing, just like it did on him. And that will turn out looking pretty good, I think. We'll also put some on the symbol to make it stand out. Now let's just clear coat. Ah! That's not what I wanted. Anyway, we're spraying her with clear coat, a pearlescent. So I'll concentrate on this, and yeah, you skip to the next shot. The time has come for us to glue her head on, and I'm using this spray glue that I've used in the past that works quite well. It's very sturdy. So I'm just going to spray it a little bit. And hold it, and that should do us. She's looking pretty good, I think.
Jessica Cruz, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy with how she turned out. Now, obviously, normally I am happy with how these figures turn out. But this one, I don't know. I've always loved Green Lanterns. And the more Green Lanterns that I have, the more I want to make, because there's an infinite number of Green Lanterns to be able to play around with. And it's just fun to have one more. And so I'm very excited to get her on the shelf. I love how she looks under the black light, and the glow-in-the-dark paint just pops. And what I found is that having that slightly lighter outline with the fabric paint really does just make them pop, makes the Green Lanterns pop a little bit more than they otherwise would. So this is Jessica Cruz. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully these are entertaining. Hopefully you're able to learn something. I'm learning something every time I do this. And there are a few characters I'd like to go back and redo now that we're 2 years almost into this. So again, thank you guys so much. Check out StephenHuman.com for all of my novels. And yeah, I'll see you next week.